This is video number 3 from Liam Runs Ultras, where I am chronicling my experiences of running ultra marathons. Over the years, I've run many different events, but the main 2 reasons why I've decided to start recording them and creating the YouTube videos is 1, because I just wanted to get better at creating YouTube videos, but 2, I found that as you do more events and as the time passes, you start to kind of forget the things that you've done, the experiences that you've had. So this has been a really good way for me to chronicle the thoughts and the feelings that I've had while I've done these events, but also to record and recognise the challenges that come up mid-event and how you deal with it. And I've really enjoyed over the past 3 videos going back and actually watching the videos of me talking about what I found challenging, what I found to be a struggle, and the sort of trials and tribulations that happen over the events. The race that I've challenged myself with this time was a 100 miler. I have never before run a 100 miler. This was the rat race Edinburgh Castle to Glamis Castle event. It is only my 3rd video. My first video was a 70 miler. That was 6 weeks prior. That was rat races the wall. That was actually the furthest distance I'd ever covered, and I managed to cover that in a relatively good time. I think I subbed about 15 hours. 3 weeks ago, that was 3 weeks after Rat Race the Wall, I then also covered an ultra challenge event where I did roughly 65 miles. That took me a little bit longer. I think that took me in the around 16 hours to complete. I knew that this was an event that was going to take me a lot longer than that. So the challenge that I set myself and the big question I asked myself was, can I finish my first ever 100-mile ultra marathon going from Edinburgh Castle to Glamis Castle? I'll do my reflections at the end. Enjoy. It is Saturday the 25th of July. It is nearly 20 past 6 in the morning, and I am heading off to do my bag drop and then to the start line for the Edinburgh Castle to Glamis Castle 100 miler. It's weather's really quite nice, a little bit windy, relatively warm. It's just a bit eerily quiet for the middle of Edinburgh.
Listen up, it's all happening here in Edinburgh. It's great to be back. Rat Race Spiritual Home. The first Rat Race event took place in 2004 right here. Stand by, have a great time with us. Here it comes.
Alright, is everybody ready?
We are. 3, 2, 1. Look at those rat race, let's go! The rat race 100 is...
Nice! Good luck, everyone!
Right, quick check-in after the first pit stop. I started this race, if I'm honest, in a bad mindset, thinking I was going to DNF, I wasn't going to get anywhere, I wasn't going to do it. But as I've settled in, I've run just over 8 miles now, things are feeling good. The only little niggle I've got is on the trail section early on. I had a bit of a problem with my knee. I had ACL reconstruction 10 years ago, and occasionally when I run on ground that's not that flat, something in my knee gets stuck and I have to do this weird sort of stamping thing to release it, and I managed it, I did it, but my knee always feels a little bit tender afterwards. And normally it happens when I'm doing like a fast 10k trying to sprint at the end. So normally when it happens it's fine because I'm near the finish line and then I go home and rest. But that happened in the first 5 miles. I've still got 90 odd to go. So my left knee is a little bit tender, but nothing that suggests I won't finish it. 14k done. This is what we bring the camera for. Absolutely incredible. We're on a massive bridge. I have no idea what the bridge is called. There's another big bridge behind me, a big red one. Body of water. I also have no idea what this body of water is called. But it's getting windy, and that's had to come off. Past the 15-mile marker rather impressively. My watch has almost measured 15 miles, only a few metres above it, which means so far so good on my accuracy, but we have got a lovely little woodland that we're running through. noticed doing these runs is the ultra community are far more sociable than other events. I go to a 10k event, I push my way to the front, I look at the footwear everyone's got on and judge how good they are at running based on whether or not I like the trainers. And I race against them. But an ultra, people are dead friendly and talk, which is lovely. But I've entered ultra marathons because I'm a very unsociable person. So I'm doing my bit and I'm saying hello. I'm chatting to people when I can. But I don't do small talk. So it's nice to just come out here with the phone, talk to myself. I have hit the second pit stop, so that's 30 kilometres, just under 20 miles, 19 miles in I think it was. Yeah, there's a big sign that said 81 miles to go. So rather than saying what you've covered, it told me what I had to keep going on. But I didn't spend long in the pit stop because I never know what to do. Like, I don't want to sit down because then I think it's harder getting back up again. I kind of stand around eating bits of food, but then I think, well, I could just spend this time walking. So I did what I've done before, which is just made myself a coffee and walked for a bit. I am at a point as well where in my original timing plan I was subbing 24 hours, but at 30 kilometre mark I was trying to keep it consistent. 10k's in 90 minutes for the full 160k. That would have put me on 30k at 4.5 hours, but I actually got into that pit stop, it was 30k just over in 3.5 hours. I knocked an hour off, but I mentioned that my knee's not great from the trails earlier on. The impact of that is my ankles just not 100%. Now, I did Chester 50 miler in February, and I pushed it too much on the trails. I tried to make up too much time, and the knock-on effect was that by the 30-mile mark my knee had swollen up, and it was only 50 miles, so I walked the last 20. And because I'd run that fast for the first 30, I comfortably made it inside the cut-offs, but it wasn't a nice 20 miles to finish an ultra on. This being 100 miles is a bit different. Obviously at the 30-mile mark, if my knee's swollen up, pretty much done. So it's not swollen up at the minute, it's just too tender for me to keep pushing at the pace I'm pushing. And I am pushing faster than what I needed to, partly because the surface has been great. Loads of road, loads of tarmac, it's my sort of thing. But I have consciously decided now that 31.7 kilometres in, I am going to take my time up to the next pit stop, which is at the 32-mile mark, so it's almost a third of the way through. And that's an important bit for me because I want to come out of that pit stop feeling refreshed and feeling like I can put in some sort of 6-minute or 7-minute kilometres without it hurting, without me doubting whether or not I can maintain. So this is now 20 kilometres to go, just under. And the idea is I'm going to listen to a little bit of classical music, take it easy, enjoy the views, enjoy the sunshine. 49.2 kilometres. So I've managed to press on tentatively because I did need to nurse my knee a little bit, but I've done well there. I've still managed to maintain a reasonable pace, but I had to just take the odd little walks at points. But it does mean that I am still feeling like this is very doable, and there's no reason why I can't keep maintaining some pace on the flats, and I'm making sure that I walk the hills and I'm just being careful on anything trail. I am lucky though that a huge amount of the track so far has been pavements and road and things like that, which is my sort of thing. I'm going to be coming up onto pit stop number 3 in about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. I'm probably not going to stay very long. I think I'm just going to fill up all my water, have loads to drink, and then grab a snack and go with it and keep pushing on while I'm feeling this good. There's also plenty of sun, which who knew that there was sun in Scotland. Right, so checkpoint 3 done. Off to checkpoint 4. It's not very far to it, it's about 11 kilometres. About about 5 miles left to get there. But first of all, I found on Spotify the complete works of the Lord of the Rings, 11.5 hours of music. So I've listened to that. I don't think I can manage all 11.5 hours of it. And one thing that's been an absolute game changer for me is I figured out on my Garmin, I just googled it, how to make it so that it doesn't vibrate and doesn't alert me after every kilometre. Because as useful as that is when I'm trying to pace myself quick kilometres, I actually find it really stressful when you're running 160 of them, and every 6 to 9 minutes it buzzes at you to remind you that you're probably not running as fast as you want. So I've managed to silence it, and it's made the run far less stressful. I quite like it. I might do away with the pacing buzz and vibration. Right, 5 miles, another quick rest, then we push on. Coming up to checkpoint 4, still making good time, but having the issue that all ultra runners have with energy, the phone and the headphones. So the plan is 3 kilometres time to check in, get a drink, get some food, and then attach my phone and my headphones to the 2 battery packs that I am carting around with me for the full 100 miles, and then do a few miles without the phone, without the headphones, and see how I get on. And hopefully after that I'll be back on with the music and have enough battery power, battery life in my phone to film a little bit of what I'm doing. 100 kilometres to go. Couple of stories to tell you. Just left pit stop 6. On my entry to pit stop 6, had a bit of a panic because my phone stopped working. Did some weird thing where the screensaver turned sideways and I couldn't access all of it, and I couldn't put the numbers in to unlock it. I couldn't restart it because it wanted the passcode. But I then found if I hold a button I could ask my phone things and it would tell me the answer, and then it told me how to do like a factory reset. So I did it and it's worked. The panic was that a charged up mobile phone is part of the mandatory kit. So my fear was, if I go into the pit stop, tell them that my phone's not working, and then if I can't fix it, will they make me withdraw from the race? So luckily I got into the pit stop at a point where I'd had half an hour of panic, but the phone was working again. Then got into the pit stop, and the main focus was, do I change my socks or not? And I've noticed that I very much favourite certain socks, and I really like the ones I'm wearing. So I have continued to wear the socks that I've got on rather than swap them. But as part of that quandary and the conversations about it, one chap was nice enough to start showing me tidal times. I wasn't too sure why, because this comes back to how ill-prepared I am for this event. It turns out there's a tidal crossing in 6 miles time, and it might be high tide. Well, it will be very close to high tide. So my favourite socks will be getting wet, which means by pit stop 7, I'm changing them. But so far so good, and I am very excited to run into the night. Here we go. $60 miles in, we have the rocks and pebbles level on the beach. Wow, this is tough on the ankles. I do think I am quite lucky though to have got here at a point where the sun is just going down so I can see. I would not fancy being on here in 3 or 4 hours time when it's really dark. Well, this is what the terrain looks like gone 10 p.m. We've got head torch on. Terrain is a bit tough underfoot. It has been a lot tougher than this. In fact, at one point it was that tough I wouldn't have got my phone out to film. But it's runnable at points. It's very quiet now because there's no dog walkers out. But the bit I absolutely love is the signs that are used for the ultra have these little fluorescent strips on them. Now, during the day you can't tell, so you just got to look out, but you can see one in the distance there. So during the day when there's loads of things to see, you've got to really watch for them. But at night time, head torch on, and they come into focus from a distance really easily. So as dark as it is, the navigation I actually think's a touch easier. The last video I did, I made reference to that classic movie Jurassic Park, so it would only be right that I make reference to another classic movie, and this one obviously is Blair Witch Project. Don't want to do too much looking in there on my own at night. I'm filming this very slowly, really just because it's nearly midnight, and as the delirium sets in, there's every chance I'll forget that I was trying to aim for like 8-minute or 9-minute kilometres, and this is the terrain, and I really want to go to sleep. So here I am back at the castle, I'm back at the start line, but I didn't complete the 100 miler. At mile 78 I reached a checkpoint and I had to withdraw. So I'm going to spend the next few days recovering and just reflecting on what I need to do differently to make sure that this doesn't happen again. In a word, no I can't. One of the toughest things I've ever done in my life. I set off at Edinburgh Castle at 7:40 in the morning. As the clips show, I set off with good pace. I set off initially with a negative mindset. I actually initially thought I would DNF it, and that view dissipated as time went on, as I became more confident and more comfortable, and even as the challenges that happen in an ultramarathon came up, some issues around my knee and my ankles and things like that, I managed to deal with them. And actually the physical side that I am now still struggling with, I am still limping, the physical side I think I could have got across the 100 miles. However, one of the things that I find when I watch back the clips is I talk a lot about not spending long in aid stations, just grabbing a bit of food and going. And when I look back and when I really think about it, I just wasn't eating enough. And then not only was I not eating enough, there was a moment where I ate some salted potatoes and I thought, they're not very salty, I need more salt. And I did nothing about it. I left the aid station and off I ran. I took my own sort of energy juice with me, but I put it in my backpack and I never got it out again. And that had some electrolyte mix within it. And then I got some salted peanuts and I struggled to eat them a bit. I ate maybe a third of the bag, put the rest in a pocket, carried it to the next aid station, threw it in the bin. And when I got to checkpoint 8, that lack of electrolytes and the idea that an ultramarathon can break you is what I experienced. I couldn't describe. There was no choice. I was going to withdraw from that ultramarathon because I wasn't convinced. Well, I knew I wouldn't get the 100 miles, but I wasn't convinced I would get to the next checkpoint. There was a moment on the way to checkpoint 8, and at this point I had experienced those things that you hear so much about, to do with the hallucinations and things like that, where you start to realize that your mind is going and that you're no longer in control of your thought process, you're no longer in control of what's going to go next. But I got to a point where I had started to put on my sort of emergency clothing, my underlayer clothing, and then I even started to consider getting my double seamed waterproof jacket on. And I knew at that point that if you're starting to put all of that clothing on and you've still got more than 20 miles to go, you're not running an ultra marathon dressed like that. You are just physically getting yourself in a position where you can survive. In the end, I just had to work really, really hard to get to checkpoint 8, which I managed to do. And as soon as I got in, I'd already spent that much time sort of trying to control the thought process of knowing how I was feeling and knowing what the risks were if I kept pushing on, that I actually walked into checkpoint 8 having already made the decision that I just couldn't carry on. There's always learning points for any ultramarathon. There's always things that you know that you need to improve on. And while there are aspects of my training, I am going to be getting out running on trails and running up hills because I need to get better at doing that. I am also going to do a lot more work around strengthening and stretching my legs and making sure that my knee feels more comfortable. But ultimately, I just need to go back to the basics. I have previously covered 50 miles in under 8 hours. And the reason I did that was because I had the correct nutrition. I trained for it, but I nutritioned for it. And what really went wrong on this particular event is I focused on the pace. I got myself out there and I wanted to do as quick a time as I could. In this one, I hit the 50-mile mark in 11 and a half hours, which really for me would be comfortably hitting a 24-hour sub 100, would have been the aim. But actually what I did was I smashed it out there as quick as I could. I sweat too much doing it and I just didn't put the right nutrition in. And as a result, I got to checkpoint 8. I got to 78 miles. It remains the furthest distance I've ever covered. It took me 21 hours to get to 78 miles, 11 and a half hours to do the first 50 miles. But then to add another 28 miles on, it took me to 21 hours in total. So it is both the furthest distance I have ever travelled and the furthest amount of time I have ever spent on my feet. It also remains the only event I have ever entered where I got a DNF.